Hello, I am Erica Anderson, Chief Customer Officer for Storytell. And so we're looking at Storytell for legal. And I'm just going to give you um, a sense of what Storytell is, and then we're going to go into the use case. Storytell is a B2B AI platform, and the whole purpose is to help your team not just make sense of data, right? Because we have so much data coming at us at all times, that's both structured, so it's quantitative, or it's unstructured, qualitative data, Slack messages, Zoom meeting transcripts, etc. And not just make sense of it, but actually be able to take action on it. What do I do from here? And maybe if we can have just Drodio go off camera, then there's just less, there'll be one fewer here. So that is what Storytell is. And I'll go like that. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, got it. You just look at Trodia's face, I guess. Um, so in terms of how does this relate to legal? Um, all the time there's new bills being passed, and maybe they're 5 pages, maybe they're 300 pages, but you have to know what's in them quickly and just get up to speed. So for instance, we're looking at these climate change bills in in both California and New York. Now in New York, it's still in progress, but what's been passed in California October 6th is affecting what is in New York. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, great. Good to know. So I'll just pop back here. So we're looking at these specific bills and how did Storytell help? What happened? Well, we uploaded these bills to Storytell so we could understand them better. And for instance, I'm going to go back to this view. So what were we asking? How does the California climate change bill compare to the New York climate change bill? And then when we say, respond in markdown table, so we're asking like, broadly, what do we want? And then we're asking for the format. So this is how I want you to deliver this. And you can really think of interacting with AI as interacting with an intern, someone you're onboarding, someone who's new to the job. And you want to be very specific about what is it you want and what does great look like? How do you want that to be delivered to you? So we want it in this format and in these columns, etc. So, the administrative body. So here's something that we're comparing. So which department is going to be developing the regulations in California versus New York? Oh, well, in New York, it's Department of Environmental Conservation. And in California, it's the State Air Resources Board, right? And then what are the requirements? Who needs to do what? Very important for businesses to know. So you can also think of AI as this like democratizing access to data, where it can be locked up or it's inaccessible somehow, right? Like, yes, anyone can search for these files online, for the PDFs of these bills, but it doesn't mean everyone's going to have equal opportunity to understand it. And our AI makes that possible. And not just in a, big summary, but actually getting it in a format that makes it even more accessible. So you see the sanctions and penalties and, what's similar here for both of them, and third-party verification. So the importance of trust. And and then you can always go deeper, like, okay, that was a great start. I want to know more. Please elaborate. So we really want to look at that difference and the reason for the difference for each of these states. So right, we had the what's different, and then what are the risks of each of these differences. And right, different levels of experience and resources, could affect how these regulations are implemented and how they are enforced. So again, there's a lot around prompting that I'm going to speak to as we move through this, because um, there's like that's how we're interacting with AI. I think one day it'll be different, and this is the world that we're in now of being very explicit about what you want. So let's just go into Storytell in general. So what are some of the benefits of Storytell? You can dynamically size your data set. So you're choosing, I want to interact with this data and not that data. I want to interact with all the data. And at this point, I'm sure many of us have heard AIs can hallucinate. You know, they can have this eager puppy kind of persona where they just want to please and tell you something even they don't know it. And so at Storytell, we said, you know what? That's not good enough. Saying that there's just this black box and I don't know how we got to the answer and you don't know whether you can trust it. That's not going to work. That's not B2B quality. And and so we created an algorithm where you can actually get the footnotes from your data, find out where did it get this response from. Okay, and then final point here, de-siloing knowledge. So this is around aligning your team through data, and everyone can have their own interactions with the data. So this one-to-one relationship, you can just think of 1600s and conquistadors in Latin America and um, what came with religion, and only one person, the priest, had access to the divine, and then now everyone, can read and pray on their own. And so everyone's having their own interaction with data as opposed to, I'm going to tell you what the data is and I will tell you what it means. It's like, no, I want to see. So without further ado, we are going to dive into the sample use case. So for every webinar, we're creating fictional personas. And we thought Harrison Clark was a pretty great legislator name. And so I'm gonna just go into Harrison's Storytell account. We'll move out of slideshow mode and um, and into what Harrison can show us. So one thing also, if you don't have a Storytell account, in order to follow along, go ahead and create one. They are free. And I'm just gonna refresh this. So Angela, can you also drop this, Angela or Drodio, in chat? So Drodio is our CEO and Angela makes these webinars happen along with many, many other things. And so this is what we're looking at. This is our shared workspace. So looking at these climate change bills and different questions that we can ask. So we have this here available for you so you can follow along in the Smart Chat and in the Storytell experience. So just want to name what's here and I'll just get visible to myself anyway. Okay, so let's orient here. We've got Smart Chat, which is what we call this ability to have these dynamic chats with data. And we're not focused on the world's knowledge, so that's, without your data. We really want to focus on what is it like to interact with your data? What can you find out? And we have tags and groups. So you'll see here, we're chatting with this group around climate change bills and emission data, hydrodio, and asking questions directly. So Angela, if you could just drop in chat the link to this so that everyone can chat along. So as you can see, I've been asking a lot of questions, and as you open up Smart Chat, just have it in the staging link. So here I can actually show you how do you share the Smart Chat. And so right here, just I'll do that again. So you click on the three dots And I'm in a markdown mode, which I'll talk about in a moment, but also can share this and I will drop that in chat to everyone. And it may not be a beautiful link, but it's powerful to do. So first, before we get chatting, what is in this data set? So you can actually click on it and see what's inside. So what are the files that have been uploaded to this? And clicking in further, oh, I can actually view the source content. So I'm going to come here to the UK climate change bill. And which UK climate change bill is this? Ah, okay. It's from March 2007. It's actually a really pioneering bill. So it's still going to be interesting to see, the evolution and what did it mean to be pioneering in 2007? And are we even there today with our own bills? Okay, so we've inspected what is inside these bills or inside the tags. So the tags, and here's the group. So I want to go back and chat with the group. And there's some questions that we've dropped in here. So naming trends over time. So we've got different locations in this, right? We talked about New York and in California and now the United Kingdom. And so I'm going to go ahead and drop that question in here. And again, if you're not in staging, I recommend that you go into staging. It can be buggier, but often faster. And here we go. So can you see how we've got these lines here? So the way to have cleaner formatting is to switch to Markdown mode. And so what are we seeing about the trends over time? And so with New York, we have more rigorous greenhouse gas emissions reporting requirements. And I mean, it's similar in California, right? So more comprehensive reporting requirements and a lot around emissions disclosure. And the UK, this is around legally binding carbon budgeting. And then we get an overall description here. So more detailed emissions data reporting, public transparency. So I want to know as a consumer about what you're emitting as a company. And then also frameworks for tracking and reducing greenhouse gas emissions over time. So questions are welcome at any point, but I'm just going to be walking us through what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I'll go back to our working document. So we had it by location, and maybe that's not the right method to be working in, or just want to, mix and match how you're looking at the data. So it can still have location as a part of it, but just like we looked at the California versus New York bill, we can look at all the locations that we have in this group. So accountability for any company making a significant annual revenue. And then I'd want to know, well, what is that revenue? And we can see in California, it's over 1 billion. Aligning global standards, and then just showing, where do they differ as well. Any point you're like, you know what, I had enough, that's fine. You can go ahead and stop answering. I'm not going to do that just so that we can get the full report here. So one thing you're going to notice, I spoke to footnotes before. So where are the footnotes? Well, in Markdown, you're not going to see them. And so if you turn Markdown off, you can do it like so, and then clicking on these footnotes or references, it's going to show you where in the data did I pull this information from. And so, so we're going into the bill itself from the UK climate change bill. And you'll see here Storytell. So our algorithm breaks everything down into what we call story tiles, and those map to footnotes. So it's a little confusing right now. One footnote was going to bring up multiple story tiles. So here are all the different places in the original source content that support the statement that you're looking at. So another way that you can do this is, so we're looking at plain text right now with the footnotes. Oh, and I want it to be in Markdown. You can also do it there in the chat as opposed to coming up here to the three dots. So this is how we're working with all of this information of just like quickly getting up to speed. Oh, the reporting requirements have changed in my state. What do I do about it? So let's go back here to the working document and see what else can we ask. So it's not just qualitative data, right? It's not just the text of these bills, but also quantitative data. So we can look at CSVs and understand more about them. Okay, and as you'll see, is so much working with AI is so much about the questions you ask, which is pretty similar to how we deal with people. But the way you ask the question is really going to define how you get a response. So bring as much creativity as possible. And if you're not feeling like you have a lot of creativity in the moment, you're not sure where to start, you can ask AI, what questions should I ask of this content? So we've got the smart chat here. So I'm just going to open that up. And again, you can always check, what is it that I'm actually talking to right now? And we've got the CSVs here that, see, we'll go, and so we have a summary of it. So looking at temperature over time and covering the world from 1940 to 2023. And if you want to know more, then you can go ahead and say view source content. So in some cases, if it's a file, you'd actually be downloading that file. And now we're going to go back and chat with this tag. You can also see, oh, it's in a group, right? So the same content could be in multiple groups. And let's go ahead and ask the question that we had. Here we go. Ah, I'll do the second time. And I'm just going to make sure that we're in the staging environment. So I'm going to go up here and do staging, Storytell. Okay. And then you can just hit enter. You don't have to hit this button. And we are entering into this new feature that we recently released, which is the ability to analyze quantitative data. And so it does take a little bit of time. And then it's going to walk us through the process of how it's looking at this quantitative data as we go. I'm going to be patient for a little bit, and then I'll just refresh and try again. But you can see that there's many groups here, so you can just continuously create groups. Great. So this is what we're seeing. So it's letting you know what's going on, that we're switching to analytics, and it might take some time. So I had that link here, but we can also go into where we were before. And where's the climate change data? Well, it's right here. And there's policy data and there's greenhouse gas emission data. So we can ask the same question of this. And again, you've got all the bills here. Now, if you're signed in at a company, then you can change from this individual person. You can click on it and go to the organizational view. Okay, so we are getting some responses here. about what are the key trends in the climate change data. And what we're seeing is, let's see, um, is that we have changes in how greenhouse gas data is reported. And that's most notable in paper mills and natural gas. The impact of the method changes. And for instance, historical data is now accessible from previous years. So what are some additional questions that you might have about this? All right, so I'm going to choose this one. How is the adoption of alternative energy sources impacted? So GHG is greenhouse gases, emissions of reporting facilities over time. And yeah, this is very much the whole intention here is just to be interactive. So it's not about like talking at, etc. Okay, so as you would expect, adopting alternative energy sources means a decrease in greenhouse gas emissions over time. And I am suspecting, because it's not saying it's moving into analytics mode, that we're not actually in analytics mode. So we're going to use this question again, and I want to talk to just the climate change data. So climate change data is a group, and let's do greenhouse gas emissions. So we're going to chat with that tag because those are the CSV files. Okay, detecting structured data. Right, so this is our more up to date. So everything in staging, we're just, shipping continuously, and once it's stable, move it into our production environment in terms of what is Storytell doing behind the scenes. Okay, so it's picked up on what is in this tag. And so what's the information here? And it's letting me know what it's going to do. So these are the steps that, analytics mode is going to take. And now it's starting by working directly with the files. And one thing that's interesting here is it's actually showing you how it's correcting its own errors. It's almost like you could think of a robot just fixing itself. So it always takes a little bit of time, but a lot less time than it takes to look at tons and tons of quantitative data and immediately understand it yourself. So AI is great for taking a lot of information and distilling it down, whether that is qualitative or quantitative. And our product really helps you with the intersection of the two, because often these kinds of data live in their own world. So the data itself is siloed, by category. Okay, so they've loaded, and now we've got the analysis in process. Okay, does it have the kind of data it needs for trend analysis? It's cleaning up the data. So at the very least, it's really letting you know like what's going on at any moment. And as we're waiting, I'm just going to share some other aspects of Smart Chat. So you'll see we are in chat mode here. And underneath we have AI generated concepts. So what are those? So just like you can create your own tags manually to organize the data, be able to chat with it, return to those chats. We save that chat history. And AI generated concepts. So our AI essentially like populates the keywords that it's finding from your data so you could interact with it directly. So you could create it manually. You can depend on our AI to really surface the concepts that are in the data that you're uploading. Okay. And so we're learning more about this data set. It's spanning a decade. We're going to identify key trends, etc. And here, you will for sure be making more and more tags, so you can search for them or search for a group here as opposed to any kind of manual search. All right, so we've got some information here, and I'm going to switch to Markdown so it's easier to see. So we've got key trends and the average annual emissions per facility per year. We've got the mean, the min, and the max. And I think what I'd like to know is what are the units here? We've got sum total. Okay, so you can ask follow-up questions. So name the units for this data. And I'll give an example. For instance, when you say the mean average annual emission is what exactly are we measuring? Okay, so this might take a moment again. But just like you would ask a human follow-up questions, you can ask the AI. And so the point here is, quantitative and qualitative. You can interact with both of them. You can quickly get up to speed on, what the main takeaways are from these data sets. And obviously within legal, there's so much that we can explore. And so for today, we chose one area of looking at climate change bills and understanding how they've changed over time, what the trends are, per location, because one bill can inform another, just like what's happening with California and New York. So the process is continuing here. Just to go back and orient you whenever you want to go back to your homepage and or even log out, you'd click here. Obviously, we're in the smart chat right now. And then this is I think a clipboard, and it's taking you into your content. So you can manage your content here. And if you want to give us feedback, and we would love your feedback, then click here to email us. Let us know how it's going, what you would like to be improved. If you happen to run into a bug. Okay. So great. So metric tons of carbon dioxide or an equivalent to that. So again, I'm not a climate expert, so I'd probably need to know more about that. So I could ask one final follow-up question. Equivalent. So does that not actually relate to CO2? It's going to take a minute for that to happen. But would love to know what you'd like us to focus on in future webinars, whether in the legal arena or elsewhere. And as that's going, I'm just going to show you a few other things here. So please rate your responses because we're building and updating our model based on your feedback. So was it a relevant response? It was accurate? Was it not? You can copy it and then you can download the response, or go back to showing plain text, like what are the sources of this? Okay, so I'm going to go back to Markdown and metric tons. So this of CO2 equivalent, so it's referring to allowing different greenhouse gases to be compared based on their potential for global warming relative to CO2. Okay, so we've got methane, nitrous oxide, fluorinated gases included in this. And often you're looking at over 100 years. So I hope that was interesting and helpful to you. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and just appreciate your interest in Storytell. We want to build for you, so let us know what you want, and we will move in that direction. And we have some other webinars coming up. So this is a weekly thing that we do. So please do share your feedback with us. I'll just share one more time. So, right, we looked at Harrison, and then here's a QR code to share your feedback with us, and our CO is available for office hours. So please reach out. We want to hear from you. All right, thanks so much.
Hey, Erica, just a really quick thing. I just wonder if anybody who is on would like to ask any questions. I'm going to make it, looks like, we'll see if we have anybody that would like to ask anything. Okay, well, with that, we will end today's webinar. Thank you everyone for joining, and looking forward to seeing what we can do to build a platform for your use cases, whether it is what we showed today around working with complex climate change data, or other use cases where as a knowledge worker, you're trying to be more effective in your role. Thank you.